Well, you've heard me talk about this before, but aluminum spindles suck. So what we're going to do is we have a couple different parts here. Toyota Camry, we also have some caliper. What we're going to try to do is get rid of the lower aluminum A-arm, the aluminum spindle, and maybe even the strut, switch it out to an older style strut because that one does not look the best. I've never done this before, don't really know. Like, I've done it before on different cars, but I've never done it on an HHR. So we're just going to kind of play it by ear and see how this goes. First thing we're going to do is loosen off the axle nut and see how it goes from there. So I guess let's get going. So the first thing I did was I tried putting the Toyota Camry lower arm in there. And you know what? It actually bolted in just fine. Like, all the holes lined up pretty damn nice. I was able to get all the factory bolts in. All the pieces cleared the factory clearance for tolerances. But the problem is with the axle in, the strut does not go straight up and down. So which means that it's too tight. So the axle is in too tight to the motor and is not allowing the strut to go all the way in. That will keep it so that it basically never wants to come out, but the problem is you're never going to get it in. So, unfortunately, these Toyota Camry lower arms are not going to work. So now what we have to do is we got to put these, which is the Cobalt lower arms, with Cavalier. Maybe I can get away with using Camry. Maybe I can get away with using Camry. With Cavalier, ball joints on it. Unfortunately, I did just cut this one with the torch because it wasn't coming apart, so we will have to redo this a little bit differently. I'm gonna have to continue working on this here tomorrow. So this side here is pretty much done. All I got to do is figure out something for the sway bar and then adjust the tie rod. Brakes need to be bled, obviously, but they're all hooked up, as you can tell by all the brake fluid on the floor. Now over here on this side, I do need another ball joint because I did cut this ball joint with a torch because I couldn't get the nut undone. So I do have a donor Cavalier that I'm going to steal another ball joint off of. And then I do need a donor strut off the Cavalier. Now I could probably get away with just doing a spring swap inside the Cavalier strut, but I'm lazy and the other one's pretty much pooched anyway, so we'll just take that one and put into this. Same with the lower ball joint. It'll be going to scrap here very shortly. So far for a recap, I'm running Cobalt lower arms, and the reason for that is because the HHRs are aluminum, but if you already have a Cobalt, you can do that. I'm running the Cavalier ball joint on the bottom. I'm running Cavalier spindles, brakes, discs, and strut. And I just had to re-drill out the top 3 new holes. And then inside here, I did have to bend the brake line to get it away from the actual strut. But I'll continue this tomorrow. But as of right now, everything is looking fantastic. And it's all going back together. It would have been nice to use the Camry lower control arms, but it's just not going to work. So there's no sense to fight with it. So start something different. But driver's side is almost... So we have the Cavalier on the trailer now, so now we can finish stealing all the parts. What we're going to want is the spindles, the struts, the axles, maybe even the tie rods. Not sure yet, but let's get tearing this thing apart so we can finish off the HHR. The Cavalier is now fully stripped. We have all the parts to continue doing the the steel spindle swaps on this HHR. So, driver's side's done. All I got to do is passenger side now. So now we don't have to put a broken strut into it. We have a good strut, and we have another ball joint for the passenger side as well. So let's get going on that. So we got everything here together. Now I've run into a couple problems, a couple snags, some things that I would do a little bit differently. But tire fits on there, axle works, everything works. So that's, I'm happy to hear that, I'm happy to see that. Let's tell you what parts I have into this. So the parts that we have, let's start from the very bottom. The very bottom, we have a G5 or Chevy Cobalt lower arm. Now, if you buy a G5 or Chevy Cobalt, they're already going to come with these arms, but the HHR comes with an aluminum lower arm, so I switched it out. I don't know why the HHR comes with aluminum and the G5 and Cobalt come with steel, but it is a factory switch out part to get rid of one piece of aluminum. The next thing, we are running Cavalier bottom ball joints. Now, I am running, all I had to do was elongate two of the holes. They went in quite easily. Next time, you see how I have the ball joint on the bottom? I will mount it on the top. Now, let me tell you why I would do that. At full height, this axle on the passenger side is hitting that lower control arm. And I believe if I switch that ball joint to the top, that will no longer hit. But live and learn. Next car I do like this, I will put the ball joint on the top, that's for sure. But, and then the next one's automatic. So automatics and manuals will probably be different, but this is a manual, so that is what I just did this for, I guess. It's just trial run in this car, but live and learn. Next, we are running a Cavalier spindle, brake caliper, and brake pads, discs. These will fit from 95 all the way up to 2003. So that's what I have on there is that. Now I am running the stock Cavalier bearing, and I am running, so the Cavalier bearings in the spindle, and I'm running the stock HHR axle. So they just go in and spline together. Next, I am running a Cavalier strut. Now why I did this is because the bracket down here is a lot different from Cavalier to Cobalt. These look a lot thicker and meatier, and as you take a look, when you put them in, they basically sit right against the frame, so they're not as likely to bend as well. So I went with Cavalier. The only downside about Cavalier is where your strut mounts to the top of the tower, you do have to drill new holes, like right there and over there. That right there is the factory hole. So just make sure that within the rules you're allowed. I'm also running the factory Cobalt brake lines and the brake, I guess that's a rubber brake line, the flex hose, to the caliper. I just undid the factory Cavalier one and then bolted the HHR one up. Now if you do look, I did move the bracket from there and I drilled a new hole and mounted it there just for one, so that the actual rubber hose didn't get tight and break and snap. For the tie rods, all I did was I removed the tie rod adjuster nut and ran the tie rods in as tight as I could and tightened them right up. It doesn't look like it would go down the road straight, but you know what, for a demolition derby it will be fine. Overall, I will give this about a 5.5 to a 6 out of 10 for difficulty for new drivers. For guys that have experience changing struts and spindles and axles, I'm going to give it maybe a 3 out of 10. One, because there's no really heavy modifications. The only reason this was kind of difficult for me is I don't know exactly how it went together, and this is my first time doing it. But realistically, this is about a 2-hour swap for a full car like this one. Not a whole lot of cutting, grinding, welding. Basically no cutting, grinding, welding for this thing except for the ball joint rivets. But it's a very easy thing to do. This will solve a lot of problems because Cobalts and G5s come with aluminum spindles and they are no good. They are junk with aluminum spindles. So by doing this, you give a car that is previously no good new life to do better in the demolition derby ring. Aluminum spindles, don't even waste your time on a car that has aluminum spindles because you're just going to get in there and it's going to break first shot and you're going to not want a derby ever again because of that. This right here will make it so that you have fun in the ring. It's very cheap, it's very affordable, and like I said, I bought that car just for the whole purpose of harvesting parts out of it to do this. The HHR has now got steel spindles in it and we're rid of the aluminum, so that's a step up. Before you guys do this to any of your cars, whether it be a Buick Century, Grand Prix, Cobalt, basically anything like that, make sure that your rules are. Thank you guys very much for watching, and be sure to leave a like and a comment. And for everybody that wants to, feel free to add me to Zach's Workshop on Facebook. Post pictures of the cars that you're building, anything like that, anything derby related, feel free to post there, and I'll comment. Take care, guys. Have yourself a great day. See you back here tomorrow.